Paddle 2.
Thank you so much for joining us here and sharing Seattle with us. My question for you, Mr. Gates, was earlier this week, Seth Godin published a manifesto on education and sort of revisiting some of the themes that Sir Ken Robinson had pushed out, that education, the old paradigm was to train factory workers and communicate obedience. And I wonder, when you think about your work through the foundation, how do you define the purpose of education?
Well, I wouldn't want an assignment where I had to do that in one page. The culture you create in the classroom, where people are respectful to each other and they all know that they're engaged and trying to learn together, that is such an amazingly important thing. You know, I spend a lot of time in public schools and see that, you know, a lot of those are not doing a great job. And, you know, more than looking at the complexity of the material on the board, just the tenure of what's going on in the classroom. Are the kids paying attention to each other? Are they respectful to each other? Is such a huge predictor of what's going to work well. When these inner city schools, sometimes independents, parochials, charters, when they really succeed, there's this amazing culture that has been built, and that's the magic thing. And that's not just good because it lets people learn how to multiply. Generally, learning how to live in that cooperative culture is one of the most important skills you need in college and in the workplace. And so, you know, I'm a big believer in tests, and that, you know, if you can't multiply, there's no degree of creativity or independence that can overcome a failure to do that. But this hard to identify aspect of how you engage in a problem and work with other people, that's very hard for us to measure. And it plagues education, because when we talk about changing things, if you don't have a gold standard of measurement, it's very hard. People will say, no, well, we're not getting as much of that unmeasurable thing as we got before. But, you know, it's the kid participating in a respectful learning process with other students. I'd say that's kind of a gold standard of what you want out of education.
We have time for one more question. So paddle 1 over here.
Yes, Don Grace at Blue School, New York City. I think a lot of what you're talking about, Bill, has to do in terms of its success with helping faculty to understand the uses of technology and also share amongst themselves in their own schools some of the lighthouse projects that are working. My question has to do with one of the original projects that you did at Lakeside with scheduling. I'm wondering how it is that scheduling might be helpful in having teachers experience their day in a different way, having them schedule in to connect with each other, and whether that's one of the roadblocks right now that we need to be thinking through in schools, because a lot of our teachers are going to say, I just don't have time to talk about that issue. I just don't have time to get together with colleagues. So perhaps some thoughts from you about how technology can help teachers in their own schools in the school day connect with each other about the use of technology.
Well, you're absolutely right that it often, when you're teaching, you're so engaged in your classes that the amount of time you have to step back and say, is there another teacher in the school? I'll just stick to technology, using technology in a way that I don't know about. Is there a teacher in a nearby school who's doing it well? Is there some new website that's either free or that I'd have to lobby to get the license fee paid that would help me do this teaching? You really have very little time to do it. And it's kind of amazing to me, the teachers who actually do go out, this teachers paying teachers thing where people have created this stuff, or Udemy where teachers do the lectures and they've done such great stuff, or the lab stuff up there in Guru where for any kind of science topic there's some very well done stuff there. It's amazing that anybody finds time to do those things. Whether or not we ought to more formally give, as we're this next decade of cacophony is taking place, whether we ought to formally give teachers time to learn about these things, I don't know. I mean, there is some professional development time or money set aside, and at the very least, a lot of that should be shifted to getting people exposure into new digital things, even the most radical kind of digital approaches that are out there. So they start to form opinions and they have exposure. Whether within your own school, actually scheduling time for teachers to sit down and talk about those things, whether you can fit that in or not. Is that a summer type activity, where you take the 20 most interested and have a week in the summer where they'll sit and talk about those things, how you bring in outsiders? A little bit, this is the thing our new website is supposed to help facilitate a bit, is that you'll be able to see the universe of things that might be relevant to your grade level and your class type. And we'll have some pretty good surveys, and we'll talk about where studies really are being precise about what's actually known and what's not known to separate it out from some of the hype.
If you would all please join me, everyone, in thanking Bill Gates for being with us this morning. Awesome job, man. You're going to get him a